Hey everybody, welcome back. No, this video is not clickbait. It's kind of a part 2 to Monday's video. If you haven't watched Monday's video, please do go check that out and then come right back here and watch this one. I will link to Monday's video in the description below. But the number one comment that I got from many of you in response to that video wasn't so much about how hi-fi has changed from the standpoint of how it's reported on, but rather how you buy it, i.e. you used to be able to go into a store, now you can't. And before I get into why I think it's time for audiophiles to accept a certain level of blame for the current state of hi-fi and a current state of why you can't go to dealers, I want to list 3 things that I've noticed the longer that I've been in this business. The number one thing that I always notice is as the years progress, more and more people clamor for a memory of what it was like back in the day. You get nostalgia. I remember when I used to be able to blank. And in the case of hi-fi, audiophiles, or enthusiasts, I used to be able to go into a store, demo equipment to my heart's content, go to another store, demo a whole bunch of other equipment to my heart's content, make up my mind. Now, I can't do that. So I have to take your word for it, people like me on YouTube, and I don't like doing that. That's one thing that I've noticed. Number 2, when presented with a new product of pretty much kind of any budget range, really, one of the pervasive comments to said product is, well, you know, you can buy used. Okay, we're going to touch upon that. And number 3 is everyone feels like they're entitled to a deal. Now, I'm not saying that any one of these 3 things are unique to the hobby, but these are 3 key ways in which enthusiasts have helped to kill the very industry they love and now in 2020 are clamoring to get back to. There were so many people saying that they remembered dealers, and if that many people really wanted the dealership experience, really wanted to go into a physical brick and mortar store, they would still be here. I mean, there are a lot of people talking about and clamoring for brick and mortar, and yet there aren't any brick and mortar stores. So why? Why? If so many people want brick and mortar, if so many people long for the days of brick and mortar, and so many people claim to support brick and mortar, and claim to have supported brick and mortar time and time and time again as it pertains to the hi-fi hobby, where'd they all go? Why aren't they still in business? Because brick and mortar stores to this day still survive. There aren't as many, but in industries beyond hi-fi, there are instances where brick and mortar is thriving. There are instances where brick and mortar not only thrives, but manages to stay relevant in an era of also doing online sales, catalog sales, so on and so forth. So if the hi-fi hobby isn't necessarily shrinking, there are more brands, more products, more opportunities for ways to, in ways in which people can get involved, and yet there aren't any stores. Why is that? Where did everyone go? Or maybe you didn't stop going, but you stopped buying. And why did we stop buying? Well, I think one of the reasons why we stopped buying has to do with one of the other points that I mentioned, and that is everyone is looking for a deal. And unfortunately, when you look for a deal, that savings, that money has to come from somewhere. And usually that comes from overhead. And a dealer, not being the manufacturer, not being the one directly related to said product, but merely a reseller, their overhead. You have to pay for them to have a place for you to go, for them to floor said product for you to listen to, and to have a staff. to answer your questions. And I know a lot of you watching this are probably warming up your fingers, getting ready to blast me in the comments, but and saying things like, well, the margins are just outrageous. The margins are insane. Yeah. But so are the expenses. So are the costs. As someone that used to have a physical office building for their business, for my 9 to 5, having a quote unquote retail space, I can tell you just how insane all of those added expenses that really did not contribute too much to the bottom line of me being able to do my job cost me. So yeah, there's overhead involved, and those 30, 40, 50, 60, 70% margins help pay for that. They just do. And it kind of, the whole like, well, I want a deal. Well, yes, there are margins, which in a certain respect allows the dealer to maybe give you 10% or 15% or maybe even 20% off in order to make said sale. But they still have to have some margin, because them, just like you, just like anyone in a capitalist society, is entitled to earn a living. And that is how they earn their living. So yes, the hi-fi dealer to customer relationship has been great in many respects, because you get to demo and listen and in a strange way test drive a lot of things. Ultimately, maybe you buy, maybe you don't, in which case it's the salesman's job to sell you and thus make the time that they've spent housing you and entertaining you and educating you worth it. But if you don't buy from them, then that could be seen as wasted time or a loss at the minimum. It's a loss. And you, on the other hand, if they have done their job and you want to buy said product, of course, then you want to buy said product at the lowest possible price. And to hell with their need to make a living. In a lot of respects, audiophiles, enthusiasts, home theater nuts, whatever you want to associate with, they wanted all of the perks of a dealer, whether that dealer be a mom and a pop or a large conglomerate. They want all the perks, but they don't want the costs associated with it. So what did they do? They moved online, or they buy used. And places like AudioGone and eBay effectively began drilling nails into the coffin of hi-fi retail. Because here you are supporting the hobby, but not supporting the dealers that make a lot of this hobby possible. The same reason why, you would support print, in the beginning, and you would support these things because there wasn't alternatives. And I'm not saying that enthusiasts are solely to blame. Dealers did not help themselves either. And print did not help themselves either. Yes, times they are a-changing, and it takes smarter people, savvy people to realize how to change with the times. But consumers on a whole, hi-fi enthusiasts on a whole, have to shoulder or accept a certain measure of responsibility for the demise of dealers, for the demise of how things used to be, and for the demise of the quote-unquote golden age of when you used to be able to do certain things that now you can't. Because at the end of the day, online isn't that much different than retail. It's just virtual. And places like, I'll use Emotiva as an example, they are making the showroom your living room. Does Emotiva have less margin than, say, had they sold through a retailer years ago? Maybe. But do they go without margins? No. they just do business in a way where whatever their margins are, we now find that exchange socially acceptable, because we believe that by not going to a brick and mortar, by not having a brick and mortar, we are now saving money. Because one of the devils of brick and mortar was this markup. Oh, there's dealer markup. That's a bad thing. That's something I don't want to have to pay for. I don't want to have to pay for your dealer markup. I get that. I totally do. Who would want to pay quote unquote markup? But the same way that we all go to work, we all do a job. We all provide a service of some kind to something or someone. We all want to be paid for that service. Problem is that we stopped wanting to pay for the dealer's service. We stopped wanting to pay for them to floor all this product for us to listen to. We stopped wanting to pay for that. We wanted the deal. And so now when companies don't have a showroom or a dealer network, it's seen as a savings to us. That may or may not be true. It may or may not be a savings to us. Just the manufacturer or the virtual retailer just gets to maybe pocket a little bit more because their overhead is lower. But it is the deal, the chasing of the deal, that led or contributed a large amount to the downfall of the golden age of this argument of, well, back in the day, we used to be able to do this. Yeah, you did. But then you stopped, we all collectively stopped supporting it. And so now we're faced with the reality we've created. And buying used doesn't support manufacturers. And so now manufacturers are starting to feel the same pinch that dealers felt over the last couple of decades. And there will be fewer manufacturers, and the smaller manufacturers are now getting gobbled up by the larger companies that can absorb these hits. Because we're buying used, because now the manufacturer might be making too much money, or now the manufacturer raised their prices, or in an attempt to make things cheaper, the manufacturer went overseas, and in doing so created entire new market segments from countries that didn't used to make this type of gear. And they now make this type of gear and are undercutting the very manufacturers they used to manufacture for. I mean, we trained them. And now we're buying it, and now we're going, oh, but it's always so cheap, and Chinese stuff or Japanese stuff or Korean stuff or just Asian stuff, Indian stuff, foreign stuff, it doesn't last as long. It's garbage. It's not as good as back in the day. We did it. We did it to ourselves. We have created the situation we all collectively find ourselves in. And so, yeah, it makes perfect sense that people are like, buy used, because you're going back and you're buying the stuff that you didn't support back in the day, but you're buying it now because you realize, or we all realize, that we had that pretty damn good. But at the same time, conversely, there's a whole plethora of enthusiasts coming on board that are like, now is the best time ever to be an audiophile because stuff is so good, it's so cheap, it's so readily available. And I don't mind that I can't go to dealers because I can just try stuff out in my home and return it. And those people, yes, absolutely, 100% are correct. That doesn't make them right. It doesn't make them right. It doesn't make the people that clamor for the days of yore wrong either. It's just, we all have to take kind of collective responsibility, in my opinion. Of course, everything I'm saying is just my opinion, but we all have to take collective responsibility for where we find ourselves at this point in time as it relates to the hobby. We've all at some level supported it, and we've all at some level contributed to its downfall. And yes, I know there are other factors out there that do matter, but we all played a role. We all play a role. And so if you still have a dealer in your area, if you still have a mom and pop shop in your area, and you want dealers to stick around, well, then you need to get your ass inside that store and you need to buy what it is that they're selling, because that's how they stay in business. And that is how you can continue to go to a place that's not your home and demo things without having to slap leather and put your credit card down on the table. But eventually you are going to have to buy. You are going to have to support them. You are going to have to not buy used or not go on Amazon or go somewhere else and chase the best deal. And I understand that by not chasing the best deal, that means you are going to be paying for something on top of the product price. You are going to be paying for service. You are going to be paying for markup. You are going to be paying for margin. But you're also going to be supporting someone who provided you with a service the same way that you collect a paycheck for providing your work, time, and service to someone else or something else. Everyone is entitled to make a decent wage and a living, in my humble opinion. And if their job is to sell you something, if their job is to floor something for you to demo and then hopefully sell you something, they have a right to do that. You have a right not to buy. But if you don't buy and then they're not there, when it comes time for you to make that decision, you're like, oh, I can't demo anything anymore. Well, that's because you didn't support them. We all didn't support them. So yeah, that is how hi-fi has changed. So yep, that is today's video. I am really sorry if it is a bit of a downer. You know, I try and keep things kind of positive and light here, but I don't know how you have this conversation without staring the problem directly in the face, or in my instance, or in my case, or the enthusiast case, looking yourself in the mirror and going, how did I help this? And how can I maybe, just maybe, reverse course, you know? But yeah, I want to know what you guys think, and I know you're going to tell me, and I appreciate it. I love the comments. I love the discourse. So do chime in like you do in the comments below. And thank you guys, no matter what we talk about, no matter if it gets serious, if it's lighthearted, if a video is a big hit or it's not a big hit, just thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this content, please do go ahead, thumbs up, like, and if it's not too much trouble, subscribe. If once again I have created a video that you absolutely loathe, go ahead and hit that thumbs down and let me know. Either way, I appreciate you all watching. And until next time, remember, the only person that has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.